while I'm out there, I hiked up that damn mountain, swept off, got set up, forgot the bug repellent, and the mosquitoes were like frickin' mini helicopters with spears on them, and they just about took me over the edge. And then I get stubborn, and I can't stand not completing something or not getting it done. And I just get stubborn to do it anyway, when I probably should have just licked my wounds and went home and started again. But I've been away, I'm shy in time, and I want to get this done. And I'm going to try to combo up doing my hikes that I have to do to get ready for backpack hunting. And I want to combo up reading a couple emails at the top of my hikes, and then head her out. So anyway, I set it up, and then of course I couldn't tell how badly the audio was picking up the background sound. And it's pretty tough right now for me to hike anywhere in these mountains without running into a creek, snowmelt runoff. It's all over the place, and it sounds like static sound in the background. So it's a little challenging to get the outdoor versions done. But anyway, here we go. Listen to this one. And this fella has written in a few times of his past experiences. I think a couple of these are used in the new book that's coming out. And I really feel for these people. This really sucks. But here we go. Good evening, Steve. I hope you're doing well and enjoyed your trip. Condolences to the loss of Mac. And I appreciate that. Thank you very much for that. And I appreciate that from all of you people who have said kind words about my horse passing. I really appreciate it all. Animal lovers understand the bond and the loss of a best friend. I told you of my first and second meeting with Sasquatch. After the second meeting, we moved about 10 miles away to my grandfather's farm. 2.5 years would pass before my most terrifying and close-up encounter. It was the summer of 1985. I graduated high school and was preparing to head off to college. My mother had already taken a job 50 miles away and stayed away from home during the work week. I had the place to myself. Daytime temps in the mountains of North Carolina reached in the 80s, but at night it would cool off into the 50s. No need for air conditioning. I would open the window at the head of my bed and allow the cool night air to flow through the window screen. After dropping my girlfriend off at her house, I drove home, opened my bedroom window, proceeded to the den and kicked my feet up on the couch and watched TV. The couch sat 5 feet from the door, and you could see the twilight and moonlight through the front door's window. It was a small window, maybe 24 inches long and 6 inches wide. It ran from the top of the 7-foot door down to about the 5-foot level. It was just enough that you could see and look out and see who was at the door. Back in 1985, we had 3 channels on TV, and at 11 p.m. the news came on all channels. So I got up and turned the TV off, grabbed my guitar, and picked a bit. I had not played for long when I got that feeling. I was being watched. I sat the guitar down and just listened. We had a small 12-foot by 12-foot porch at the front door. I could hear the porch creaking. A brand new porch built from treated 2x6s. Every hair on my neck stood at attention. Then I looked toward the door window, and it was solid black. No moonlight passing by, not even at the top. Something was blocking the window. Then the doorknob began to jiggle. I shouted, "Who's there?" No sound. At that moment I heard Papa's dogs coming, barking like crazy. I heard the entire porch screech loud, and the light came through the window. The dogs came and passed, barking the entire time. Whatever it was didn't like dogs. I grabbed my .357 Blackhawk and stood guard all night. I never left the couch until daylight. Morning came. We had a softball tourney at our local field, and I got home right at dark. I never turned the TV or any lights on. I sat down on the couch with my .357 and waited. Around midnight, I heard the porch squeaking. This time I heard the heavy footsteps. I watched the window turn black. Again, it grabbed the doorknob. Jiggle, jiggle. I cocked the single action, pointed at the door, and yelled, "I'll blow you to hell." This thing let out a scream straight from hell. It hit the side of the house, still screaming. When it stopped, I heard the dogs coming. Once again it fled. I stayed on the couch that night. Somewhere through the night, I dozed off. I awoke to the door opening. I damn near shot my grandfather. It was daylight, and he wanted to know if I had been drinking the night before, and hit the porch with my Jeep, and how in the hell I busted the siding off the outside wall beside the door. Walking outside with him, the 12 by 12 porch was knocked off its pillars, and there was an arm print embedded beside the door as big as my leg and 20 inches long. I told my grandfather what happened. At the time, he did not believe me. He said, "You came in drunk, ran over the porch, and you must have beat the siding off with your baseball bat." We spent the day making repairs. Night 3 comes around. My mother had returned home from work, and I listened to a speech about drinking and having a bad temper and hitting the house with a bat. She proclaimed to turn on the TV, and I knew she watched the news, so I went to my room, opened the window for some cool night air, turned out the lights, and called my girlfriend on the phone. Note, I had my own phone and number, and Mother had a separate line. This info will come into play. Girlfriend and I chatted like 18-year-olds can. Then my life changed forever. A putrid smell of shit, piss, and death filled my room. I could hear heavy footsteps, two-legged footsteps. I told Kelly of the smell. She laughed and said, "Skunk." I said, "No, I've smelt this before, and I can hear it walking." Then, less than 24 inches away from my head, I heard the breathing. Inhale 15 seconds, exhale with a low growl, 15 seconds long, slow, and deep. I freaked out. I told Kelly what was happening. At first she joked and said, "No way." I told her I was going to shoot through the screen. This damn thing was already beside me. The damn thing was blowing its breath on me. Ever been so scared you couldn't remember what happened? I remember trying to cock the gun, but in my head, something saying, "It won't work. It won't hurt him. Don't do it." I remember crying in fear and telling Kelly this monster's right beside me, and its breathing got louder and deeper, and the stench made me sick. I could hear and see a huge hand on my screen, pushing the screen in. I heard the dogs barking. This time the barking was pure fear, just high-pitched yelps. Then the cry of dog in pain. The sound of a shotgun being fired, and the blackberry bushes and grapevines being torn down. The support timbers of the vines snapping like twigs, a blood-curdling yell fading away, and then the voice of my grandfather outside my window. "Dick, are you all right?" Kelly had hung up and called my mother, and Mom called Papa. Kelly had also heard the breathing and growling, and in the fear in my voice. She knew something wasn't right. My grandfather put a load of buckshot in the, quote, "bear," end quote, and ran it off. The next day I went with my grandfather to inspect the grapevines. It looked like a truck had rolled through them. But then, there in the middle of the garden was 20-inch perfect five-toed prints, 9-foot strides between each step. Pop looked at me and said, "Go get the shovel and rake. Get these things covered up before your grandmother see them." And after cleaning up the garden footprints, I went to my bedroom window, and there, imprinted on my screen, was a handprint 3 times the size of mine. I can only imagine the force required to bend the screen and leave a perfect handprint. My grandfather said we would never speak of it again, but I needed to get gone. This is the 3rd time it has come to you. He remembered the huge prints and destruction on my great-uncle's sawmill 5 years earlier, and the dead steer the night it followed me home 3 years back. You have done something to it. You need to stay with your sister until college starts. I was more than happy to oblige. It would be 25 years before I would have an interaction with it again. A few years back, my old girlfriend and I spoke at a reunion. She said, "You remember that night Bigfoot came to your window?" Uh-huh, yeah, I sure do. And there is another one in a not-so-pleasant experience, right? A young kid scared the family blaming him for what's going on. Nobody's got the answers. No one has anyone to turn to, right? And sadly, many of you people out there can relate to this story. And I'm sure I'm not wrong. And like I mentioned in the previous video, I loaded up before this one at the end. I expressed my anger and my frustration with all the so-called big names in the so-called Bigfoot community, with their persistent lying to all of the good people out there, all of you. They've all been lying nonstop. They know they are. And if any of you guys are listening, you know I know you are liars. And it's getting real old, you know? You know, there's some real good, hardworking, honest people out there that really do care, and they are, what they did a handful of years ago is unprecedented. I mean, they went out and they collected over 130 DNA samples from around North America and also elsewhere outside of North America. They did it, and they did it numerous times. All right, and all the so-called big names in the Bigfoot community, they know this. They know these facts, and they also know other facts about these damn things that they're not admitting publicly and they're not filling you in about. Why they keep doing this? Well, there's a good, obviously there's a handful of reasons for that. I won't get into it now, but we'll just keep it right now with the low roar and the fact that I'm fed up and I'm not going to stop pointing out to the people that all of these guys and a few women are lying to you nonstop, and I'm not going to quit until I know that every single one of you good, honest people out there knows the truth and knows the truth that these people have been lying to you. We're going to get that done.